Hi everyone, welcome to Be Strong and Love Yourself, a channel for very strong people. I'm Dasha Bisali. I created this channel to share some positivity. And I also always wanted to add a little bit of information about the brain and how it works to my channel. I'm not a scientist and I don't know too much about this subject, but I really try to learn more, because I believe that the more you know about the brain and how it works, and also your body, how it works, the more you can love yourself and the more you can understand yourself and other people. So that's why today I want to share some information about neurons and also about hormones. Let me first show how neurons talk to each other. This is the picture of two neurons. This neuron, presynaptic neuron, sends information, and this neuron, postsynaptic neuron, gets information. And neuron keeps a resting potential before it gets information by keeping positively charged ions outside. When presynaptic neuron gets action potential, it releases from its vesicles neurotransmitters, chemicals, and it releases it in synapse, a little space between two neurons. Then these chemicals bind to receptors of another neuron and they open ion channels. And if enough positive charged ions get inside, this neuron fires. And what is interesting about this process, it's not only about neurotransmitters, but a lot depends on the receptors. So if the signal is too strong, then the cell can get rid of receptors, or it can make it less sensitive. If signal is not strong enough, it can add some receptors, or it can make it more sensitive, so it can get the signal. And there is the whole regulation about this process of receptors. And there is also a receptor that we can call bookkeeping receptor on presynaptic neuron that kind of calculates how many neurotransmitters have been released. So its sensitivity is very important also. And synapse is the place where memories are formed, and the stronger connection between neurons is, the better you will remember something. And they say, actually Donald Hebb said it, neurons that fire together wire together. So you can create some very strong connections between neurons, and it can affect your behavior, and it can affect not just your brain but your body as well. And neuroplasticity kind of happens in here with this whole process of connections between neurons. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to remodel and reorganize itself based on experiences, behavior, and genes by forming new connections throughout life. So the way you form these connections is based on your experiences, behavior, and genes, and it affects your life. So as you can see, receptors play a huge role in your brain, in your memory formations, and other things. But also not just receptors in your brain, but also receptors of any cell in your body. And let me tell you the story about insulin. So once upon a time, there was a glucose in bloodstream, and hypothalamus, a part of the brain, found out about it. And it told about it to pituitary gland. And pituitary gland sent information to pancreas. It was like, hey man, can you take care of this glucose? We don't need that much in our blood. And pancreas said, of course I'll take care of it. Well, I have this guy, Insulin. He knows what to do. He has a magic key to fat cells, and he can open their doors so they can invite glucose inside and get some energy from it. And this is what happened. Insulin came to fat cell, took out the magic key, opened the door, and fat cell invited glucose. In a while, hypothalamus found out again about glucose in bloodstream and sent another signal to pituitary gland, and pituitary sent it to pancreas. The same thing happened, but you know what? Fat cell was full. And it was so full, and insulin kept coming over again and again with the stupid key. And fat cell got so mad that it just changed the lock. And insulin tried to open the cell, but it couldn't. And this is what is called insulin resistance. When the cell changes its receptors, the way that even when insulin tries to open fat cell so glucose can get in, the cell changes its receptors so they become less sensitive to insulin, and insulin cannot affect the cell anymore. But pancreas couldn't give up. He just couldn't accept it. And he kept working harder and harder, and it worked so hard that at some point it just got burned out. And this is how diabetes can happen. Pancreas was not able to produce any more insulin. Fat cell at some point got a little bit, oh, I miss insulin, where is it? Let me change my lock back. But there was no insulin anymore. It was too late. And now when people have diabetes, fortunately they can have a shot, and they just got insulin via this shot. And because there is no more insulin resistance, it works for people with diabetes. This is just example. Of course, there are a lot of other causes of it. And sometimes there's something with genes and things like that. And humans' body and brain are extremely complicated. And this is just teeny tiny piece of what can happen. Why am I telling all these stories and showing all this funny doodling? Because I believe that our brain and body, they do tons and tons of work for us, a lot. And sometimes we do not appreciate this work. But if we think about it, how much work is done out of our consciousness, even before it touches your consciousness, there is so much work. And if we know about it, if we remember about it, maybe we would take more care about brain and body. And another very important thing that I want to highlight is that a lot depends on our behavior. And you can make certain choices, and these choices can bring good consequences and bad consequences. So it is very important what type of choice you make for your future life, for your brain and for your body and for the way you feel. So please remember that your behavior is very important. And in the end, I want to say that it is also very important how you handle discomfort. And this is what I will be talking about in my next video. But let me start a little bit right now, so you will be, I hope, intrigued. But depending on what the way you control your discomfort, your actions that you take when you feel uncomfortable can also affect your brain and body. And a lot of times when we feel uncomfortable, we just want to get rid of this discomfort instead of trying to use it for our own good. And this is what they say about suffering, that suffering exists, but you can make good use of this suffering. I think it works this way for the brain. So when you experience discomfort, if you sit through it, you train your brain to accept it and to learn how to process it. And in a while, if you do it all the time, your brain learns how to process it unconsciously. You don't even have to put efforts. On the other hand, if you always find something external to get rid of discomfort, to numb the emotional pain, to forget about it, not to pay attention to it, or try to make it go away, if you always use something external, then your brain will not have opportunity to build specific neuroconnections, and it will not know how to deal with the pain. And then you will always be afraid that you will not be able to handle certain situations. So the more you practice to sit through discomfort patiently, the more opportunity to train your brain you have. And it worked for me. And again, I will share more information in my next video. But I hope that you will at least think about it. Think about how much your brain and body work for you, how much stuff they do for you, even without your conscious involvement. Think of how your behavior can mess up the process. And think how you can sit through discomfort and how important it is. And remember, be strong and love yourself, because love wins always.